What's up everyone and welcome back to the comms channel. In today's video we're diving more into the satellite testing with the new app update. We'll look at some common antenna options for satellites, answer a few of your questions from the last video, and try sending APRS through the International Space Station without one of these fancy satellite antennas to see if this is something you can try at home yourself.
US Air Force on guard, aircraft 4 miles west of Bainbridge Airport.
Okay, I'll be back in 60 seconds.
We're approaching a restricted area. Restricted area is 1 mile west.
Before we dive in, just want to mention that we make business card size laser engraved metal radio reference cards for these radios and others that we've covered here on the channel. They've got all the key settings and shortcuts so you're never stuck flipping through a soggy manual out in the field. So check them out by scanning the QR code on the screen or head on over to shop.thecommschannel.com and see if we have your radio listed in our growing list of options. Now let's get started. In the last video I mentioned needing a diplexer for the VR-N7600 to hook up both my 2 meter and 70 centimeter Eggbeater antennas. Now I've also got another satellite antenna from Aero Antenna that has one built in, and here's how it works. The 2 meter side and 70 centimeter side both feed into the base, where the diplexer combines them into a single cable that goes to the radio. Now, even though it looks like one antenna, it's actually two. A 2 meter yagi with the longer elements, and then a 70 centimeter yagi with the shorter ones. Now, when it comes to ham radio satellites, the two most popular antenna types are going to be eggbeaters and yagis. Now, the eggbeaters are nice because they're omnidirectional and therefore cover the whole sky, and great for ease of use, but lower gain, making the low elevation passes harder to work. Now, yagis, on the other hand, are higher gain and better for the weak signal low passes, but they're directional, and that means you have to track the satellite as it moves across the sky. But we'll go deeper into antennas in a future video in the satellite comms series later. Now, I've been using the VR-N7600 a lot lately, but wanted to test the new doppler shift feature on the VR-N76 handheld radio with the Aero antenna during an upcoming ISS pass. Now, during this test, one thing I noticed on the N76 handheld, the doppler shift currently works only on one band, unlike the N7600, which does both. That's because the N7600 was ready for this feature out the box, but the handhelds will need a firmware update. Now, at the rate that VGC has been adding features, I wouldn't be surprised if this drops while editing this video like last time, but if it doesn't though, we'll be sure to post an update via YouTube community post and social media. Now, even without the dual band Doppler shift, we can still use this feature because the space station has a couple of modes that use single frequency operations like APRS and SSTV. So ISS has an APRS Digipeater that's usually active except during certain activities, and they also run SSTV events from time to time where they transmit images. Since there's no SSTV event running right now, we'll try this out with APRS. Now, there's a page I'll link to with the current ISS equipment status that's worth checking out before a pass as well. For this ISS pass, I wanted to see if we could receive voice comms and receive and transmit APRS with just my foldable tactical antenna and no fancy satellite gear. So using the ISS detector app, it looked like we had a good pass to work with, and I opened up the HT app when it was approaching, searched for ISS in the app, selected it, and hit connect. Now, it stayed silent for a bit when it was in range where the satellite antennas would have likely started picking it up, but sure enough, eventually as ISS climbed higher above the horizon, I started picking up voice comms, and eventually as it got even higher, the voice comms got pretty solid. So with that test being successful, let's test APRS via the space station, and to do that there are some specific APRS settings that they use that we'll need to configure. Now, I should also mention that this satellite feature is only available on the Android version of the HT app. So with the HT app open the three-dot menu on the top right, then select Device Settings, and then Signaling Settings. Then for the data mode section here, make sure that the toggle switch for data mode is currently turned on. Then for channel, make sure current channel is selected. And we'll be manually sending our location for this test, so we can have automatically share location and smart beacon turned off. Then make sure format is set to APRS. Then on down to the APRS section, the ISS Digipeater uses a specific path and we'll want to set it to that. Now the app already has this set up as an option that we can easily select by selecting path, and then we have an option for ARISS S-Gate wide 2-1. So we'll want to make sure that we have that selected. Now you likely already have your call sign set up by now, but if not, be sure you have it set up here. Now we won't go over that in this video since we've already covered that in a previous video in our series for these radios. So with that, we're all configured and ready to use the space station as a digipeater and send APRS packets to space and back down to Earth. Since we were monitoring the voice comms, we'll need to change to the digipeater frequency. To do that, we just select Edit on the bottom right, and so we have ISS FM, which is for the voice comms we're currently listening to. And if we scroll down, we have ISS SSTV, and then below that we have ISS APRS, which is what we want in this case. So go ahead and select Apply to that one, then hit Save on the top right. And now we should start picking up APR stations that are being digipeated from space via the International Space Station. And as we can see here, we're picking up a station in Houston, Texas, picking up VA2KK, which is a non-US call sign, so probably a Canadian station, and another station W3CJS. Then here we have Hello from Ottawa, so another Canadian station, all the way from here in Tennessee, so that's pretty cool. So now that we're able to receive stations, let's try transmitting our location and see if we can successfully have it digipeated by the space station. To send a location on the app, we have this map pin icon on the bottom right here. Select that and it'll take you to a map with your current location. Then we can hit the send button on the top right to transmit. So our location has now been transmitted, but how can we confirm that it reached the space station's digipeater? A simple way to do that is to head on over to this website here, which is ariss.net. And this website will show stations that have been recently digipeated by the space station. So we have a world map view here, a zoomed in view of the United States below that, and I can already tell that my station made it, but you'll sometimes get a bunch of stations close together which jumbles up the view. So if that's the case for you, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a text-based list showing all of the stations as well. And it's as simple as that. And like we showed in this test, there's no need for a fancy satellite antenna to transmit APRs to the space station. And definitely something you should try yourself at home. Even if you just have the stock antenna, it's worth a try. Now, I was unable to reach it using the stock antenna myself, but I know that others have been successful, so definitely give it a shot. Now, the stock antenna on most radios generally aren't great, so it is recommended to upgrade, and I'll include some affiliate links to the one from this test and another one I've had success with. And if you haven't seen it yet, we've done a video on accessories for these radios that's worth checking out as well, and I'll include a link to that video. And one more thing before we go, I think most of the questions from the last video were answered in this video already, but there is one I want to cover, and that's this question from Russell Thomas here asking if the radios are duplex. So the reason for his question is there are some radios that are what's called full duplex, which is a nice feature to have when communicating with satellites because this allows you to hear yourself on the downlink frequency while you're transmitting, allowing you to know if you're making it into the satellite or not. Radios that aren't full duplex, as soon as you transmit, the receiver side essentially deactivates, so you can't listen in. So having a full duplex radio lets you listen in and transmit at the same time. Now, this is more of a nice to have in my opinion, and it's completely possible to make contact without this feature. And there's actually not very many full duplex radios out there, especially handhelds. I have two that I picked up used at Hamfest over the years. This Kenwood THD72, which came out 15 years ago in 2010. And then the ICOM ICW32A, which came out in the mid-90s, so is almost 30 years old now. Still great radios and worth picking up if you come across them though. Now, as far as handheld radios that you can buy new, the only one that I'm aware of is the KG UV-8D from Woshin, or however you pronounce it. But as mentioned, this is more of a nice to have, and many have made contacts with a radio without full duplex. Or if you happen to have two radios, you can achieve the same results by having one radio monitor the downlink frequency and another radio for transmitting on the uplink. That'll do it for this video, and hope you found it useful. If you did, please be sure to give the video a thumbs up and share it with someone or group that you think will find it useful as well. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already so you can stay up to date with the latest info for these radios, because we have much more content on the way. Hope to see you there. Thank you all and have a good one.